Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the merciful, the most merciful. Praise be to God, and may blessings and peace be upon our Master Prophet Muhammad and his pure family. Peace and mercy be upon you, all my dears. This is the last lesson in the interpretation of Surah Al-Fatihah, and today we'd like to discuss 4 important points. I put them at the end of our lessons, and I can call them an appendix to the lessons. Let's start the first one. So the first point is that there is a verse in the Holy Quran, and this verse says in Arabic, Inna Rabbi ala siratin mustaqim, and in English, my Lord is on a straight path. It is in Hud chapter, and the number of the verse is 56. We'll ask this question. In Surah Al-Fatihah, we have guide us to the straight path, to the straight path. And in this verse, we have a straight path. God is on a straight path. Are these two have the same meaning? I mean, the straight path in Al-Fatihah chapter has the meaning exactly as the meaning here in this verse 56 in Hud chapter, or there are differences between them? Really, they are not the same in the meaning. That one, which is in the Al-Fatihah chapter, believers are asking God to guide them to the straight path. So, in Al-Fatihah, people are looking for a guidance. But here, God is talking about himself. Inna Rabbi ala siratin mustaqim. That's correct. It is said by one of the prophets. But God accepted his speech and mentioned it in his Holy Quran. So what is the meaning of Inna Rabbi ala siratin mustaqim? My Lord is on a straight path. Here, the correct meaning of a straight path in this verse 56 in Hud chapter is the answer will be the meaning here is not related to guidance but to justice. God in this verse is telling the believers that he is just. He does not have courtesy and no favoritism, no color in judgment. He has just one thing, justice, justice, and his judgment is just only. I mean, his judgment is fair and true in full. I think it's clear now, and we can compare between the two meanings of straight path in Al-Fatihah and straight path in this verse. God is talking about himself. The second point, if we go back to the verse that tells about the straight path, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us to the straight path. We can say that this verse, this ayah, this supplication is a clear evidence that all the religions are one. There is a unity of religions. And we can say that all religions from Adam up to Muhammad, the last one, all of those religions are Islam. All of them are Islam. And also we can call people in that period of time, in Nuh age, in Nuh time, we can call them Muslims, and also people, believers in Nuh age, also Muslims. Now, the people who are calling themselves Christians, also we can call them, if they followed the straight path of Jesus at that time, also we can call them Muslims. Add to all those, now the believers in this age, in this period of time in history, who are following Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also they are Muslims. So from this verse, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, all the people, prophets, believers, all of them in their prayers, they are asking God, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us to the straight path. This means that all the religions are one. All the people, believers, are also Muslims. In the previous ages, before, and now in this period of time, in this time, also they are Muslims the same. Straight path is one at that time and in this time. Believers asking for guidance, to be guided to this straight path, yes, it's one. Monotheism, prophethood, judgment day. These three ones are in all the religions: monotheism, prophethood, judgment day. The third point, in the last verse of Al-Fatihah, we have two words. Really, these two words are describing manners and behaviors of kinds of people. So, in the last verse of Al-Fatihah, there are two types of people, and both of them are very far from the straight path. They got out of the right way. The first type, the first kind of people, those who is God angry with them. مغضوب عليهم. God is angry with them. And those like the Jews. Why? In the earlier period of Islam, those people, they knew the truth, but they rejected it, and they follow their special religion. They refuse to accept the religion of Muhammad, which is the correct religion, really. The second, and also I have to stop in this point and say this important thing, that the verse, but not the verse only, all the Quran is alive. And this verse is alive. This means that anyone who rejects the truth after it was very clear to him will be one of those. Pay attention, please. Everyone who rejects the truth after it was very clear to him will be one of those who is God angry with them. Exactly the same. So everyone in this period, in this time, everyone with the same attributes and behaviors applies the same name, مغضوب عليهم. God is angry with them. The second kind of people, we can call them perverts, means those who have moved away from the straight path to their ignorance. They were able to search for the truth. Also, they have the ability to reach the truth and to know it well, but they didn't try. Also, this kind of people who were in that period of time in history, in the earlier age of Islam, are still with us now. We can see them now. They are also will be one. Everyone with the same attributes and behaviors will take the same name, ضالين. Who does not follow the truth, the true path. The third point, a well-known narration, hadith, speech, a saying. And this saying, this hadith, is mentioned in the books of Shiite and Sunni. And both schools accept this hadith. This narration, this speech, which was said by the Prophet Muhammad in order to show the right size and the greatness of Al-Fatihah chapter. What did the Prophet Muhammad say? He said, God said. Now the Prophet Muhammad is saying, God said, we divided Al-Fatihah between me and my servant. Pay attention, please, to this important point that if God talks about his action in Quran, always he says we. If he talks about himself, he says I. So here God is talking about an action he will do, right? So he said, I divided Al-Fatihah between me and my servant, the believer, into two parts. The first half is for me, and the second half is for the servant, the believer. When? While reading Al-Fatihah in the prayer. So, now the Prophet Muhammad is saying, if the servant says in his prayer, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we are ordered, we are asked and supposed to start always with the name of God. And Al-Fatihah, the first verse is in the name of God, the most merciful. So now the prayer will start in the name of God, the merciful, the most merciful. At that time, God will say, my servant began with my name. I must help him to complete his affairs. I must help him to complete his works and bless him in his conditions. After that, the believer in his prayer will say, Alhamdulillah, thanks be to God, praise be to God. God will say, praise me to my servant and acknowledge that the blessings he has from me. God says that I add to him the blessings in this world, in this life, and in the hereafter, and defend him also from any affliction of in this world and in the hereafter. Now the believer will continue reading Al-Fatihah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So, if the servant says Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds, right? God will say after that, the owner of the day of the Malik Yawmuddin, the owner of the day of judgment. At that time, God will say, my servant recognize that I am the owner of that day of judgment. So what will God say to him? I will make that day very easy for him. In that day of judgment, I will help him to be happy and satisfied. And if the servant says, we worship you and we ask the help from you alone only, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, God will say, after this, I will help my servant in his business, in his affairs, in his work. And at the end, if the servant says, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us to the straight path, then God will say to his servant, to the believer, what do you want? Ask me. I will accept your request. I will answer your question. I will help you. I will take your hand and to the guidance. I will lead you to succeed. So now it's clear that God gave the right size and showed the right size of Al-Fatihah when he told the Prophet Muhammad this hadith. Al-Fatihah is divided into two halves, into two parts. The believer says something and God replies, right? And according to this, we recognize really the importance and greatness of this surah. So we have to read it carefully and understand the meaning of all the verses of Al-Fatihah. In conclusion, as we finish now the interpretation of Surah Al-Fatihah in 9 lessons, we have to thank God so much for his help, and also I have to thank all the listeners to me in this interpretation of Surah Al-Fatihah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.